All right, so Adam Silver ended up getting on the NBC News, and he was talking about the CBA negotiation that's going on between, of course, the owners and the players, and he absolutely said something that pissed the WNBA off. All right, they ended up taking shots at him, which I will show y'all that after this. Let's go ahead and take a listen to what he had to say.
Adam Silver made a shocking statement during an interview on NBC News that caught everyone off guard. While discussing the ongoing CBA negotiations, he revealed a startling truth that exposes the core issue behind the failed talks. His words hint at a deeper problem that many haven't fully understood, one that threatens the future of the WNBA itself. What he said suggests that the current dispute isn't just about money or terms, but something much more significant. By the end of this, you'll realize why there's a real possibility that the WNBA might not exist by 2026, and how this revelation changes everything we thought we knew.
I think share isn't the right way to look at it because there's so much more revenue in the NBA. I think you should look at it in absolute numbers in terms of what they're making, and they are going to get a big increase in this cycle of collective bargaining, and they deserve it.
So the main part that I want us to pay attention to is this first part, okay? It's really quick. This clip was really quick. But we need to pay attention to what he said right here.
Yes, I mean, I think share isn't the right way.
Did you catch that? The focus on share percentages isn't the real issue. That one sentence from Adam Silver revealed the entire underlying strategy. When he says, "Don't look at shares," he's essentially indicating that the players will never truly get what they're asking for. The WNBA quickly responded with an Instagram story saying, "Don't want to share Adam Silver," calling him out publicly and escalating the tension. But here's the twist. Adam might actually be right. I'll explain why in a moment. First, you need to understand the math behind this. The players are demanding a revenue split similar to the NBA's, which sounds fair on the surface. But when you run the actual numbers, things get complicated and reveal a much darker reality.
And by the way, it's not even the owners, it's the players. So the players get 50% of the money. Where does the rest of the money go? And this is revenue, not profit, not 50% of profits. They want 50% of revenue. So the WNBA costs, let's just make the maths easy. Let's just say it costs $100 million to run the WNBA. It doesn't, it costs way more. When it's taken.
That explanation really sums up the core issue. If the league earns $100 million and costs $100 million to operate, and players ask for $50 million, every owner would be losing money, guaranteed. No investor would accept such a deal. What's even more surprising is that the WNBA isn't structured like the NBA. The NBA owns 100% of its revenue, but the WNBA doesn't even control half of what it earns. They have third-party investors and the NBA itself stepping in to support the league financially. It's a complex web where the actual WNBA teams are minority owners in their own league. So, when players demand a 50% revenue split, they're asking for something that simply can't happen within the current financial setup. This is where things get even more intriguing.
Positions that benefit from the league not existing. There are players that benefit from the league not existing. And by the way, we know these players that are in the PA have basically diplomatic immunity from getting fired. If Unrivaled goes 5v5, they're going to make a little more money. But you want to know who's not going to make more money? The 60.
The level of professionalism from the WNBA is seriously lacking. They leaked their own awards out of spite toward Caitlin Clark and demanded investigations over issues that never even occurred. They had to delete posts because they were bullied by their own players. What many don't realize is that some players in leadership positions actually benefit if the WNBA shuts down. Think about it. If Unrivaled goes 5-on-5, certain stars could make more money. But the real victims are the 60 to 70 players on minimum contracts who would lose everything. This reveals a troubling, darker side to the situation, driven by complex psychological motives.
Closely to what he said here. We got to dial in right here. He's speaking really fast. Let's listen to this next part.
I think you should look at it in absolute numbers in terms of what they're making.
I think you should look at absolute numbers in terms of what they're making. Because this could be a big increase, right? We don't see in their proposal. The max going from 200,000 to 850,000. That's a big increase. That's a big increase, right? the minimum being over.
They're not really trying to give players a bigger share of the revenue, as he openly admits. Instead, they'll look for ways to boost salaries through efficiency, cut costs, eliminate expenses, while keeping the revenue split exactly the same. This makes you wonder if the poor officiating last season was part of budget cuts aimed at funneling more money to players. Were they already working behind the scenes to raise salaries without changing the revenue split? The real issue that's driving players crazy is the disconnect between what's promised and what's actually happening behind the scenes.
I believe that we are seeing this type of thing. And look, I think the players should make a lot more money. I think apparently somebody like who knows the WNBA finance really well is like, even if the players got 80% of their merch and they got like a percentage of ticket revenue, which they actually get none of right now, but it's like, even if you give them 80% of their merch, apparently the total still goes to about just over $1 million.
They refuse to implement a fixed salary cap with set increases, preferring it to be tied to revenue, which fluctuates yearly. This means players would only sign one-year deals since no one can predict next season's cap, making the entire league unstable. Even if players received 80% of merchandise sales and a share of ticket revenue, currently none of which they get, the total additional money would only amount to about $1 million more. The funds simply don't exist at the levels they're demanding. This situation becomes even more uncomfortable to discuss because it reveals how disconnected the demands are from the league's actual financial reality.
Y'all don't even own half of what's coming into your league. So that 9% might have to stay there the way that he's talking because of how they're falling short already on making enough money to pay for how much the league costs to run, right? So that 9% might have to stay there. I don't know. That's the way he's talking. He's like, maybe not look at it as far as shares. Now, to me, it sounds like he's saying we don't necessarily want to increase that share number. We're just going to get a little bit more efficient here and there within the business.
He just confirmed it. The owners might be using the WNBA as a tax write-off, benefiting from tax breaks for operating at a loss. This means they could actually profit more by keeping the league unprofitable. Think about the incentive this creates. If running the league at a loss provides tax advantages and they receive positive publicity for supporting women's basketball, why would they agree to a deal that would cause even greater losses? It simply doesn't make business sense. That's why the players are so frustrated. They see the league growing, with stars like Caitlin Clark selling out arenas, and wonder where all the money is going. But what they're missing is the bigger picture behind these financial strategies.
If the revenue split happens, it is essentially a guarantee the owners lose money, and there's no scenario where that's ever going to happen. And I think the players are like, there will never be a situation where they budge on the revenue split. There won't be. If there's no 2026 season, there's not going to be a 2027 season, there's not going to be a 2028 season. I think an argument could be made that it is beneficial that the whole league shuts down and it allows these players to start fresh.
The NBA owns a minority stake that helped bail out the WNBA. Their involvement isn't just about investing in individual teams. They're invested in the entire league's survival, along with third-party investors who now hold stakes. When players demand 50%, they're not just asking team owners to accept less. They're asking the NBA and outside investors to take a smaller share. Neither of these groups has any real motivation to agree, since their financial interests are tied to the league's stability. This is a classic case of negotiation psychology. The players believe they have leverage because of the momentum from last season. But do they really? Here's what they might be missing.
And talking his talk, he was going to settle everything. I thought he was going to fix everything. I called him Thanos to fix it. Man, he talking just like Kathy. He talking just like Kathy, man. He like, look, we not trying to get y'all this share money. We're going to find a way to get those increases going, right? Y'all going to make a little bit of more money, but y'all not going to get any more of this share. I'm sorry. We're not looking at it as shares because y'all not making a profit. Y'all not making close to as much as the NBA is making. So, nah, we not.
Even with Caitlin Clark's incredible performance, she alone isn't enough to save the league. That's the harsh truth no one wants to admit. Yes, she drew huge attention and boosted ratings, but one player, even a generational talent, can't fix the underlying business model issues. Things get even more complicated with the emergence of Unrivaled, backed by billions and owned outright, sometimes fully, by investors. These leagues don't face the same split ownership structure the WNBA has. The major problem with Unrivaled that people overlook is that it operates with a different ownership model, which gives it a stark advantage. The WNBA's fragmented ownership and financial setup make it harder to compete in this new landscape.
Could have added 24 more players, got to 60 instead of 44, added 16 more players, made it 5v5 with 10 players per team, and the league becomes infinitely better. But they're so stuck on gimmick basketball that's not real basketball that they've screwed it. Like, I think if Unrivaled was 5v5, I think a lot of other players would be playing. I think Caitlin Clark plays with 5v5.
If Unrivaled wasn't just gimmick basketball, I'd support it fully. The core issue is the 3-on-3 format. If it were 5-on-5, this would be a completely different discussion. Caitlin Clark and players like AJ Wilson would likely participate, especially during a lockout. Instead, they added 2 more teams, but didn't increase the roster size to allow for 5-on-5 gameplay. They could have had 60 players instead of 44, making it more like real basketball. But by sticking to this 3-on-3 concept, they've limited their potential for growth. This approach creates a tough situation for WNBA players, restricting their opportunities and the league's development. It's a missed chance to expand and elevate the sport.
These WNBA posts, I think they might actually be half pushing to shut down the league. And I don't know if that's the worst thing in the world. Because at the end of the day, I think if I would be looking at that option way more favorably if Unrivaled was not gimmick basketball. If Unrivaled was just 5v5, if instead of adding 2 more teams to Unrivaled, they added 4 more players per team, they could have done it.
A new league where players deal directly with fully owning investors would be much better for long-term growth. It offers clearer, more straightforward ownership compared to the NBA's complicated bailout structure. But this only works if it's genuine basketball, 5-on-5 gameplay. Right now, the momentum from Caitlin Clark's rookie season, playoff ratings, and rising attention is at its peak. If there's no 2026 season, that momentum could vanish. This moment is crucial, and they're on the verge of losing it. Behind the scenes, significant shifts are happening, and the future of the league depends on whether they seize this opportunity or let it slip away.
Like, this reminds me of the we call BS thing. Like, there is zero, and I mean zero, professionalism from the WNBA, and there hasn't been for years. Like, they've leaked their own awards out of spite for Caitlin Clark. They've leaked their own awards out of spite for a player that they're meant to represent. They have given credit, like they have basically demanded the WNBA start an investigation, which they have, and basically called out the league for not punishing people for something that didn't happen, for not punishing a team.
They leaked their own awards out of spite and pushed for investigations over unfounded issues. They were bullied into deleting posts, showing the organization's reactive approach. This is how they're negotiating revenue split, driven by emotion rather than strategy. While owners analyze spreadsheets and business models, the players' union posts Instagram stories and calls out Adam Silver. The energy levels are completely different. Beneath all this, there's a deeper issue linking everything, an underlying tension and disconnect that fuels the conflict. It's a complex situation rooted in more than just the surface disagreements. It's about control, trust, and long-term vision.
There's so much more revenue in the NBA. I think
He's talking really fast right there. He said, I think share is the wrong way to look at it because there's so much more money being made in the NBA. And this is the problem, okay? This is the problem that is going on in the CBA negotiation. You can't increase that number to half like the NBA because there are so many other hands in the cookie jar, fam. Like I stated in the last video.
The player's share can only increase if the other two shares decrease. which is the core issue. The NBA's share must decline, or the third-party investors' share must drop, but neither is happening. Adam Silver's strategy is clever. He aims to boost overall revenue through efficiency and growth without changing the percentage split. The maximum payout rises from $200K to $850K, and the minimum increases to $300K, which are substantial gains. However, the players resist this, insisting on ownership of the revenue split itself. They want control over the revenue structure, making it impossible to find a compromise. This fundamental disagreement over ownership and revenue distribution is the key obstacle.
It becomes a hell of a lot less complicated. But at the end of the day, with the these players could 100% get paid more if there was an entire league 5v5 with structured league, not named the WNBA, because of the weird business deals, or not weird business deals WNBA made to stay afloat. The problem is,
it's possible they might actually be aiming to shut down the league entirely. What if some players in leadership positions genuinely believe everyone would benefit if the WNBA collapsed and players moved to new leagues with better structures? Consider the incentives. Star players who are guaranteed pay regardless might see a fresh start as appealing. However, players lower on the roster, those barely making it, stand to lose everything. Their careers could end abruptly, and this critical point isn't getting enough attention. The stakes are high for the many who rely on the league not just for pay, but for their livelihood and future prospects. This underlying possibility adds a troubling layer to the ongoing conflict, revealing deeper tensions and long-term visions.
Players are shooting themselves in the foot because this momentum is never coming back. Because this league probably, if the 2026 season doesn't happen, the WNBA is done. It will never happen. It's done. I think every one of those owners that has built any of those facilities, I think they all have get out of jail free clauses, all those expansion teams. They can use.
If the 2026 season doesn't happen, it's unlikely it ever will. Many of the expansion teams with their new facilities have exit clauses allowing them to repurpose those venues for other sports. While the owners have protections in place, the players are vulnerable. Without a season, they miss out on paychecks, and without momentum, the league might be pushed toward a last resort option like 3-on-3 gimmick basketball, which the Stars likely wouldn't even participate in. As the deadline approaches, tensions are high. The players demand concessions the owners simply cannot afford without losing money on every dollar of revenue. The owners have offered significant salary increases but refuse to alter the revenue split percentage. Both sides remain entrenched. Despite the WNBA's record-breaking season and Caitlin Clark's star power, which drew unprecedented attention, these achievements may ironically be contributing to instability. The players believe they hold leverage, but the league's financial structure reveals otherwise. This isn't about fairness. It's about the cold reality of math. The future of the league hangs in the balance.